Tensions across the Middle East have reached a dangerous and unpredictable phase as the conflict between the United States and Iran deepens, with the Strait of Hormuz at the very center of the crisis. This narrow but critically important waterway has become more than just a maritime route. It is now a geopolitical pressure point shaping global economics, military strategy, and diplomatic calculations. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this corridor, and its disruption has triggered one of the most severe energy shocks in recent history. Since late February 2026, when U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian targets ignited a broader war, the situation has escalated into a full-scale regional confrontation. Iran responded swiftly, launching missile and drone attacks while asserting control over the Strait of Hormuz. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps moved to restrict maritime traffic, warning vessels that passage could not be guaranteed. As a result, shipping activity in the strait collapsed, with tanker traffic dropping dramatically and hundreds of vessels forced to wait outside the region. The consequences have been immediate and far-reaching. Oil prices surged past $100 per barrel, global supply chains were disrupted, and industries ranging from energy to manufacturing began to feel the impact. Analysts have described the disruption as the most significant shock to global energy markets since the 1970s crisis, underscoring the strategic importance of the strait. At the center of the American response is President Donald Trump, who has adopted a strategy combining aggressive military action with pressure-driven diplomacy. His statements reflect a belief that overwhelming force can bring Iran to the negotiating table, even as the conflict continues to intensify on multiple fronts. Iran, meanwhile, has maintained a posture of defiance. Its leadership has framed the confrontation as of sovereignty and a resistance against foreign intervention. Iranian officials have repeatedly emphasized their operational control over the Strait of Hormuz and their readiness to continue military actions. In one of the most significant declarations, Iranian forces highlighted the scale of their coordinated operations. We carried out a sustained and joint missile and drone operation by the naval and aerospace force. This statement illustrates the level of coordination between Iran's naval and aerospace divisions, signaling a sustained campaign rather than isolated strikes. The message did not stop there. Iran further asserted its control over the strait and its determination to continue operations. Our devoted fighters in the Iraq Navy and aerospace forces, while maintaining smart and powerful control over the Strait of Hormuz, will continue attacks on enemy positions in the region. These statements reflect a broader strategy that relies heavily on asymmetric warfare. Iran has deployed mines, drones, missile systems, and electronic interference tactics to disrupt navigation and deter foreign naval operations. These methods are relatively low cost but highly effective, making the strait a difficult environment for conventional military forces to secure. In response, the United States launched a coordinated military campaign aimed at reopening the strait and degrading Iran's military capabilities. Beginning in mid-March, U.S. forces initiated airstrikes targeting Iranian naval assets, missile installations, and drone facilities. The objective was clear: weaken Iran's ability to control the strait and restore safe passage for international shipping. President Trump has repeatedly emphasized the scale and intensity of these operations. Over the past 27 days, the U.S. armed forces have been annihilating Iran's military capacity. While such claims are difficult to independently verify in full, there is evidence that significant damage has been inflicted on Iranian infrastructure. He reinforced this message with another statement highlighting the broader scope of the campaign. We're crushing Iran's military, destroying their missile and drone factories. Despite these assertions, the reality on the ground remains complex. Iran continues to launch retaliatory strikes and maintain its influence over key areas. The conflict has expanded beyond the immediate theater, with missile attacks reaching U.S. bases and allied territories across the region. At the same time, Trump has insisted that the pressure campaign is yielding results on the diplomatic front. They're being hit so hard, they're begging to make a deal. This claim aligns with reports that indirect negotiations are indeed underway, with both sides exploring potential pathways to de-escalation. A 15-point peace proposal has reportedly been put forward by the United States, including demands related to Iran's nuclear program, missile capabilities, and control of the Strait of Hormuz. However, Iran has pushed back against these terms, arguing that they disproportionately favor U.S. interests. While Tehran has signaled openness to dialogue, it has also insisted on conditions that preserve its sovereignty and strategic autonomy. The diplomatic situation is further complicated by ongoing military operations. Even as negotiations are discussed, both sides continue to engage in strikes and counterstrikes. This dual-track approach, talking while fighting, has created an environment of uncertainty and mistrust. Trump has pointed to developments in oil shipments as evidence of progress in negotiations. We had 10 ships, and then people realized we were actually negotiating. Such claims suggest that limited concessions or gestures may be taking place behind the scenes. However, analysts caution that these actions may be tactical rather than indicative of a broader resolution. The stakes of the conflict extend far beyond the immediate region. Global markets remain highly sensitive to developments in the Strait of Hormuz, with even minor disruptions causing significant price fluctuations. The closure of the strait has already led to sharp increases in energy costs and raised concerns about inflation and economic stability worldwide. Efforts to reopen the strait face significant challenges. Even if a political agreement is reached, the presence of naval mines and the risk of further attacks make the process complex and dangerous. Experts warn that clearing the strait could take weeks or even months, requiring extensive international coordination and specialized equipment. Meanwhile, the conflict continues to evolve on multiple fronts. Iranian missile and drone attacks have targeted U.S. bases and allied infrastructure, while Israeli strikes have hit Iranian military and industrial sites. The involvement of additional actors, including groups aligned with Iran in the region, has further expanded the scope of the conflict. Trump has framed the situation as a broader strategic victory. I really believe we saved the Middle East. He argues that U.S. actions have prevented Iran from expanding its influence and have protected regional allies. However, critics argue that the conflict has increased instability and created new risks. The absence of a clear endgame has raised concerns about a prolonged war with significant human and economic costs. Recent reports indicate that the conflict has already resulted in thousands of casualties and widespread destruction. In a moment that drew widespread attention, Trump appeared to briefly refer to the Strait of Hormuz with a different name before correcting himself. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. This remark comes amid reports that he has considered renaming the strategic waterway, reflecting a broader pattern of symbolic gestures accompanying his foreign policy approach. At the same time, Trump has maintained a firm stance on Iran's nuclear ambitions. As president of the United States, I would never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. This objective remains central to U.S. strategy and continues to shape both military and diplomatic actions. The conflict has also brought renewed attention to past events, including the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Trump described that moment as a key turning point. I took out Soleimani. He was a vicious, horrible human being, but a great general. Experts remain divided on the long-term impact of that decision. While it removed a key figure from Iran's military leadership, it also contributed to the escalation of tensions that have now culminated in open conflict. As the war approaches its second month, both sides continue to project confidence while facing mounting challenges. The United States is grappling with political pressure at home and strained relations with allies, while Iran faces economic hardship and sustained military pressure. Recent reports suggest that the U.S. is preparing for multiple scenarios, including the possibility of a post-war coalition to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Officials have warned allies to be ready for such a role, indicating that the conflict could transition into a stabilization phase if hostilities subside. At the same time, the risk of further escalation remains high. Iran has warned that it will impose a heavy price for continued attacks, and the involvement of additional regional actors could expand the conflict even further. The broader geopolitical landscape is also shifting. Divisions among U.S. allies, particularly within NATO, have become more pronounced, with some countries reluctant to participate in military operations and instead advocating for diplomatic solutions. As events continue to unfold, the situation remains highly fluid. Military operations, diplomatic efforts, and economic pressures are all interacting in complex ways, making the outcome of the conflict difficult to predict. What is clear, however, is that the Strait of Hormuz has become the focal point of a high-stakes confrontation with global implications. The coming days and weeks will be critical in determining whether the crisis moves toward de-escalation or intensifies into a broader and more prolonged conflict.